Good evening. Thank you. This month, we will highlight the South Lawn Middle School gymnasium addition. I'm going to pull this podium out where I can see the screen a little bit. I'm sorry, I said South Lawn earlier. I meant JAG. It's the new field house and field upgrades. The project architect is PH&J from here in Montgomery. This is the aerial view of the current campus. The new field house will go toward the bottom of the plan here where this little red check mark is. It's a 17,500 square foot field house. It has a nice athletic weight room, locker rooms with shower facilities, laundry, storage areas, coaches' offices, team film rooms, study area. There will also be a covered batting cage for the baseball, softball players. We'll renovate the football field and track and renovate the baseball and softball fields. Here was a site plan with the of course, the football field at the top of the plan, the baseball and softball. We're changing the orientation of the baseball and softball from where they currently are so they could fit better on there and get more of a full field on it. The field house is over toward the plan left bottom here. It's a floor plan of the new field house. Weight room here at the bottom, nice size for plenty of machines, and the locker rooms up toward the top. The coach's office is connected to the weight room with a view panel to where they can look out at the weight room when the students are working out and keep an eye on everybody. The laundry is up in the top corner here, along with some storage, and then the study area is an open area off of the corridor right toward the middle here. Here's a nice rendering of how it'll look. This would be standing in the back parking lot of the current school. This is the coach's office I mentioned earlier, with the windows looking out from here, looking out toward the weight room. And of course, this is the weight room. This would be the view from the coach's office into it here. The covered netted batting cage. The projects have been submitted and approved by the DCM. We've got a tentative bid date toward the middle to late July, and then with the notice to proceed probably September in that time frame. And here we are with our minority participation. We've got total professional fees of $21 million, and of that, almost 11 has gone toward MBE DBE services. And that concludes my update for this month. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Are there questions of Mr. Slater?
Thank you.
Thank you again. The next informational item is the Bailey Education Group, Dr. Linebarger and Mr. Pat Ross of the Bailey Group.
Hey, good evening, board. Hey, again, I'm Monty Linebarger. This is my first time speaking in front of you all, and I would be coming asking for money at this time. But to the board president, the board, the superintendent, I would like to propose a contract with the Bailey Group. The Bailey Group is an organization that I've worked with probably for over 13 years. When I was in Tuscaloosa City Schools, when I was going through school improvement, when I was going through the school improvement plan process in the SIG grant, we used the Bailey Group. We used the Bailey Group to work with Central High School and the feeder patterns. And they came in to assist us with coaching. That's one of the biggest things we're doing right now. I'm using the words coach up. I believe right now, after reviewing the data in the last 2 months I've been here, I strongly recommend that we coach up our teachers, we coach up our administrators, we coach up our staff. We have an amazing team of leaders here already, but we're very thin. And unfortunately, we all will not be able to do all the work that we really need to do. So that's why I reached out to the Bailey Group. In addition, also in Huntsville, we use the Bailey Group in Huntsville. We actually use them for all 46 schools. We really should have used them only for a fewer amount of schools. We probably would have got more work done. But one of the results that we actually did was we made better principals, we made better teachers, and we also removed one of our schools from the failing school list for the first time ever. And this is all documented there. So that's why I chose the Bailey Group. What do the Bailey Group do? Data-driven analysis. They train, they coach, they model, they give feedback, and they monitor. One of the things I applaud the Bailey Group on is his team, they were not afraid to go into buildings to do the work. They went into the buildings to have the tough conversations. They taught what real PLC meetings look like. They taught what real data meetings look like. They worked with our first graders, our second graders, with the curriculum, with the standards. When we talk about rigor and things like that, Mr. Ross has a dedicated staff who have the skill set to do the work. I'm confident that they can help us move our district forward. So that's why I reached out to the Bailey Group. We're using CSI funds, Comprehensive Support Improvement Funds. The first part, from the 23-24 school year, those are funds that we really haven't used yet. So they were just kind of sitting there. And I do agree that the state released those funds kind of late, so that could be the reason. But we really need to use those funds for a laser focus. The second part of the payment is going to come from the 23-24 school year. So it looks like a lot, but we're really dividing it up in two pieces. So at this time, do anybody have any questions for me before I turn it over to Mr. Ross?
Any questions for Dr. Linebarger?
Dr. Lombard, you're going to be serving 8 elementaries, 1 K through 8, 4 middle, and 2 high schools?
Correct.
And the fund source from the 2024 would be your federal funds?
Yes, Comprehensive Support, CSI funds.
Yes, okay.
Are there other questions?
Just a comment. I'm glad it was like that. I just haven't heard it. And so far, your coach up, very impressed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My mother always taught me to say less than required. But we're excited about this partnership, excited about the confidence that Dr. Linebarger and his team and Dr. Brown and his team are showing in us. Know this, when we enter into a partnership, your data becomes our data, your children become our children, and everything that goes along with that. We are a partner in a lot of different ways, but certainly when it comes to standing side by side, administrators, teachers, and students to move the needle for student improvement, that's what we're interested in. And we will pivot when we need to pivot, and we will adjust where we need to adjust. We've got a history of doing that. I would like to introduce our Vice President of Educational Services, Ms. Tanisha Washington. Tanisha came with me, so if there are really tough questions that she could answer them. But our organization has been doing this for nearly 20 years now. So we feel pretty confident in our abilities and our coaches' abilities, but it's all about our people, and so we're excited to partner here. So any questions from you guys?
Are there questions? Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
At this time, we look to hear from Dr. Starks, Booker T. Washington Magnet.
Good afternoon, everyone, to Superintendent Brown, to each of our board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this afternoon to talk about some of the storage needs that have been required since August 18, 2018, the day of our school fire. I have just a few points that I will share. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to each of you and to our outgoing board members, as well as previous officials who were here, for your support that you have provided during this transition and during this time. I also want to let you know that we had a strategy, and we still have a strategy in place after the August 18th fire to prevent even more property loss. In addition, we want to express to you today that we have been good stewards of MPS property, and also we have been responsible, in addition to our FAME board, for expenses associated with these storage facilities that we're using. And I want to acknowledge our donors as well as next steps to vacate the units as we prepare to move to 4400 Bell Road, where I'll have new neighbors. We are the school with 3 addresses, proudly. And then we also want to talk about moving forward. So I will do this in my time frame allotted. Again, I want to just thank the state of Alabama as well as the city of Montgomery and the BTW FAME Foundation. If there are FAME board members here, please stand. Thank you. As well as our BTW PTSA and supporters from around the nation. We had supporters all the way from Jericho High School in New York, as well as individuals from De Toledo High School in Los Angeles. And I want to thank all of my colleagues, principals, and their schools for supporting us during our transition. There's not one school represented this evening that did not provide some sort of support as we left 632 Union Street to move to 3315 Hayneville Road. Also, we want to extend our appreciation to our first responders, clergy, and so many officials who made all of the difference, as well as our media sources. Thank you all. You got the word out. Our rationale for our storage units, we had to make some decisions in a short amount of time. 5 days, 3 a.m., August 18th, I was awakened and I was told that the building was on fire. And I just threw on some gym clothes. We remember that. And I moved on to 632 South Union Street to just see everything on the east side of campus just go up in flames. We had to make some big decisions in a short amount of time, and protecting property was one of the best decisions that we could have made in the purchase and rental of storage facilities and units. And I have a narrative that will provide support. This is what I encountered at 3 a.m. I'm standing outside my car on the interstate because I could not get close. And then 2 days before this fire, we had students meeting at Hutchinson Missionary Baptist Church, our partners in education, and they were talking about how to build a service mindset and to engage the community. We didn't know that on August 18th that we would have one of the biggest community engagement endeavors that the state and that our nation would see, because everyone came to our aid. At 3 a.m., Dr. Ann Roy Moore, via conference call, Mr. Chad Anderson, his first week of working in MPS, Dr. Darrell Boswell, Chief Bobby Crew, Chief Forte and his team, Mr. Tom Salter, and so many others. We were meeting in the conference room at BTW and had to make decisions. First, how do we move the students and faculty? And secondly, how do we move ourselves and the property? We thought that we were going to be able to originally stay in Building D, but we had a water main damaged underneath Union Street, and that prevented that issue, or that caused a challenge for us to be able to use Building D. August 20th, our BTW faculty and staff met to develop a strategic plan. When we got to Hayneville Road, we had a custodial closet. And if there are any fire marshals in here, close your eyes. This is what was happening. We had no storage space. So special thanks to our BTW stakeholder group, the FAME Foundation, PTSA, and so many other people. We were able to move some items that could not come from Union Street and go to Hayneville Road because it is an elementary school, as you're aware. And we purchased units, or we rented units rather, at Storage World, 214 C108 and H105. And currently, BTW has items stored at the Montgomery Mall between Lamp and Impact, as well as we have a unit at Dexter 1 that we are using courtesy of a BTW alumna. And we also have dance costumes that are being stored at the expense of a teacher and her family. They donated a unit for us to use for dance costumes. MPS is also holding many items that we had to purchase, as well as items that we could not house. Now, to make sure that I get to the point with this presentation, instrument storage was the priority. For those of you who have pianos that you purchased, pianos that you hope that your children would play in, they're now decorations in your living room. They are like people. They cannot be in high temperatures, and they also have to be stored with a limited amount of humidity. We could not put pianos in cages at Impact. We could not put pianos all over the place and other instruments. We had to place those pianos in climate-controlled storage units. And so we are most thankful we were able to do that. As you can see, I am walking around with my teacher, Mr. Aja Lafitte, and the math was not mathing. We did not have enough space for instruments as well as technical theater equipment. We were barely getting in there with our high school children, and Jake Lucky, who's a BTW alumnus, he was there walking around as well, trying to help us figure out what we were going to do. These pianos are pianos that we were able to relocate to Hayneville Road, but there were other pianos that are in practice rooms that you cannot see that we had to place in storage, in addition to so much other property. We want to let you know that the equipment that we have at BTW is not only for our use, it's for other MPS schools as well. We are partners in education with other MPS schools so that if they have productions, they do not have to rent instruments, they do not have to rent equipment. We are able to provide that support for our schools. So we were not just looking out for our property, we were looking out for property that we share with other schools as needed. Next steps to vacate units, we cannot wait until we reach 4400 Bell Road, because we want to say goodbye to Storage World and all of those units. We are going to hopefully move out of those units no later than August 18th. With an emphatic yes, we are ready to move, but we are, as I stated, equally excited to move out of our units. As we move forward, we want to let you know the importance of why we're requesting review of the funds that have been used for storage. We have faculty, staff, as well as stakeholders who've used their personal funds to fill in the gap for us, because we've spent thousands of dollars just to house equipment in multiple locations. And in closing, I just want to share something, because there may be individuals who will say, why did you spend so much on storage? Couldn't you have placed those items at other schools? We had to move quickly. And as we moved quickly, I thought about what the late Wilbur Terrell, who's the namesake for one of our jazz studies programs, shared with us. He said, you make the best decisions at the time you have to make those decisions. You cannot go from the present and say you should have done this or you should have done it that way. The circumstances change, and it is an unfair playing field for you to hold yourselves accountable in a different way when our circumstances were not in our favor. So we made the best decision to protect property, MPS property, BTW property, and other property that we would share with our schools that are in need. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there questions of Dr. Starks?
More like a comment. I just remember that day too, like you, like it was yesterday. I tell you, I'm just thankful that you thought so quickly, you and your team, the FAME board, the PTSA, your students, the other principals. Talk about teamwork making the dream work. They all stepped up to make sure that the kids could preserve all of the things that they held near and dear to them. So all of it was really centered around those students.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ms. Cloud.
I wanted to let you know that that happened in August of 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
You're moving in August 18th of 2023. So August 18th is a celebration.
It is.
We've
It
come
really
full
is.
circle. And
Yes,
I'm so
it is.
extremely, I've been honored to be a part and watch, not of the audience, to watch the wonderful things that the BTW students do.
Thank you. Thank
Ms.
you.
Mitchell?
Ms.
Well,
Watkins-Smith and Ms. Cloud.
I would just like to say that the fire was truly devastating to me. Not only was it, my birthday was August 16th, 2018. And also, I was the first Center for Advanced Technology magnet teacher at BTW, and that was my classroom that actually burned. And the curriculum that I wrote, the only copy of it burned in the fire. So, you know, I went over, it wasn't at 3 in the morning, I went over a little later in the afternoon, and just watched the smoke. But out of the ashes, the phoenix has risen.
Absolutely.
And thank you for all that you've done. And, you know, I taught Ms. Starks in 8th and 9th
Eighth grade.
grade.
Know the rules, follow the rules.
Yes.
Well,
That was her
hey,
rule.
her birthday candles is what started, now we know.
You know, so this, and I remember when we were first started BTW, and we were only supposed to be there for 5 years in that building. And, you know, I wonder why is it taking so long? But I'm so glad that it did, because now we don't have to settle. Our students, it took just enough time to bake in the oven so that we could get the best for our students. And that is what truly matters. Thank you for
Thank
all
you.
you've done. And we're just expecting the tip top of everything for our MPS students.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you all. And to all of my colleagues, I've shared, it's not just BTW, it is your school as well, because you've helped us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Starks. Our next presentation is a professional development agreement with Classworks. Mrs. Jackson.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, Superintendent Brown, board members. As you all know, IDEA requires public schools to provide a free and appropriate public education to students receiving special education services. To comply, schools must provide additional services and supports to students in special education that are not available to the general population. In 2021, MPS sought a resource to ensure every student participating in special education had a high-quality, individualized education program that could be implemented with fidelity. The district needed for an evidence-based resource with specially designed instruction that was also aligned to the IEP objectives. It also had to be valid and reliable. We had to have progress monitoring aligned to the objectives as well, and reporting mechanisms for parents. Additionally, we needed a screening resource to help in the creation of these IEPs. During the 2022-2023 school year, MPS implemented Classworks in the middle schools. And our proposal is to also expand to the elementary and the high schools for the upcoming school year. I think the big rocks to take away from this is we have to have a resource that is used by special education students in addition to resources that are available to all students. For example, we have Edgenuity, iReady, Progress Learning, to name a few. Those are instructional programs used by both general education and special education students for Tier 1 instruction, remediation, and intervention. MPS chose Classworks in part because its progress monitoring tool meets the guidelines released by the National Center on Intensive Intervention in December of 2022. Classworks progress monitoring received the highest rating for validity and reliability from NCII, and the results provide an independent measure of growth on a student's IEP. You have a proposal before you. The pro forma analysis gives a description of what will be due on a 3-year subscription. The funding source will be IDEA or ESSER. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there questions?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Clapp.
On the comparison with Classworks and iReady that the grid you gave, I see where iReady supports the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 interventions and the screening three times a year. The Classworks supports the IEP objectives, sort of like the educational, the instructional piece to it and for parents. But there were 2 places, the social emotional survey based on Castle, whatever, and then the SMART goals for embedded teacher feedback for academic or PBIS goals, but it says to be announced. They're not in place right now, but they're coming.
What we're utilizing or plan to implement will be not the behavioral piece initially, but the mathematics and the ELA piece.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
Thank
Are
you.
there other questions?
Other questions?
Just a comment, Ms. Jackson. I wish you were around when I was around. But I know how beneficial it'll be.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Jackson. The next item is regarding the piloting of the Teacher Residency Academy. Dr. Pelton?
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Thank you. So this afternoon, I would like to talk to you about a Teacher Residency Academy, and we want to pilot this for the next 3 years. So, what is a Teacher Residency Academy? Well, our first goal is to equip our new teachers. When I say new teachers, I'm talking about teachers that have been teaching less than 3 years. We wanted to equip them with the knowledge and skills through ongoing job-embedded professional learning and coaching support that results in quality and equitable instruction for all students. Our second goal is to recruit and retain highly effective educators who are set on a path for continuous learning. And also, we want to build a collaborative culture of teacher experts who share the responsibility of improving student learning. Basically, we want to grow our own. So, why do we need a Teacher Residency Academy? Well, the teacher is the single most impactful school-based factor for improving instruction and helping students. Over 50% of new teachers leave within the first 3 years of the profession because they're unprepared or lack support. The Alabama Commission on the Evaluation of Services in 2022 has that MPS has a 36% teacher retention rate. Also, replacing new teachers is costly. Approximately, to replace one teacher is over $100,000. Also, new teachers struggle with anxiety and depression due to job-related stressors, and they never move beyond the survival mode of the first year. Also, we have a 31% proficiency rate in ELA, 11% proficiency rate in math. If you look at the pie chart, as of March, we had 634 new teachers. If those 634 new teachers, we have approximately 20 students in the class. That's over 12,000 students that are affected. So what are we going to do for them? Well, we're going to provide them with professional development that focuses on teaching strategies and specific content. We're going to do active learning and using the adult learning theory. We're going to support collaboration, and we're going to give them a safe place to learn. We're going to model what we expect to see in the classroom in the professional development. We're going to provide ongoing coaching support. We're going to provide feedback and reflection. And we're going to build individual and collective capacity. And most importantly, we want to sustain this over time. So what do we believe about the TRA? Continuously investing in supporting new teachers allows us to develop a system of highly effective educators. Teachers who receive ongoing job-embedded professional learning results in student growth. Teachers have opportunities to collaborate with and learn from other educators. And having teacher experts, who we're calling retired teachers, they are our teacher experts, who will facilitate effective planning sessions with our new teachers, model lessons, partner as co-teachers, provide specific feedback to them, and all of this will result in a change in instructional practice. So where do we start? We have to start with addressing educator wellness. If we go back to Maslow in 1943, he tells us that if basic needs are not met, we can't move beyond that. So we have to meet teachers' basic needs. We've been through a lot with COVID, pandemic, and losing teachers because of stressors. Sorry, my ADD, sorry. We all experience hard times, and it's up to us to support each other. So with the teacher residency, we focus on educator wellness by helping them develop self-care plans, but also the energy and how much a teacher's engaged, that motivates the students. So what happens, we want them to be satisfied with their job, we want them to come to work, we want them to have positive interactions with students, and we want them to provide more time in instruction. If we're mentally and our basic needs are being met, we can do those things. So after we look at educator wellness, we get into the content. How do we teach? So we're looking at the model. At first, you see the Alabama Core Teaching Standards. In the Alabama Core Teaching Standards, it talks about what do you need to do to plan? What do you need to do to deliver instruction? How do you monitor? How do you assess if what you're doing is working? And how do you reflect and adjust your instruction? Using Marzano's 10 design areas, I have them outside each, that shows how they're connected to our framework here. For example, if I'm looking at strategic planning, I'm going to focus on helping teachers set goals. I'm going to help them maybe have scales, proficiency scales and rubrics, help them track student progress. I'm going to teach them about formative assessment and assessment that aligns to standards. We're going to talk about engagement strategies, help provide them what will help our students have a better response rate, different things to inspire our students, and also help them through the whole teaching cycle. So what does this look like? The first year, we're using the new art and science of teaching, and which focuses on student engagement, classroom management, relationship building, goals and assessing. We also have a component where we focus on educator wellness. There's an online platform. We focus on instructional design. And then our district provides training through Schoology and some other after-school trainings on Nearpod. We'll also talk about things like the Alabama Core Teaching Standards. What does that look like in the classroom? The Code of Ethics, Student Code of Conduct, the MPS policies and expectations, things that just help teachers out. So after the teacher finishes year one and they're ready to start year two, they will receive a $5,000 stipend. Year two, we're digging deeper because remember the first year's survival. So year two, we're digging deeper into the content. We're having more PD on standard-based instruction. We're looking at student work samples. We're also talking about engagement, proficiency scales, and other learning platforms. And as you see, it just builds after year. After year two, when they start year three, they will receive another $5,000 stipend. And then year three is more self-paced. But we will support that, but then they will be tenure because so we compensate until they reach their tenure. So who will participate in the pilot? Well, we are focusing on the continuously low performing schools. We had 100 slots available because we want to make sure we get this right. So we wanted to start with 100 so we support them. So we took the enrollment and the number of teacher units, and that's where we came up with these numbers. So each one of these schools, the number out beside is the number of slots that they will have available. It equals 96 plus the 4 retired teachers because we want them to be a part of the learning process in the PD. So our teacher experts are retired teachers. This is how they will be divided. K-3, 6-8, 9-12, and then the last one will be 4-12, just so we can keep them all. If we only get 3 the first year, we'll just carry those over to the other. But year 2, we definitely want 4. So, I'm smiling. This is the budget part. So, you notice the first year it's $200,000, a little over $200,000. This is for 100 teachers. The next year it will be 200 teachers because we'll have a year 1 and a year 2. You notice that the amount goes up for the next 2 years. But then we start to decline. Why? Because we're developing our own experts. We have people that can provide the PD. We can do the resources. We have a collaborative culture that knows how to do these things and help other people that are coming into the profession. The budget is paying for the PD provider, the curriculum, the resources, the online platform, the data management, the stipends, and the retired teacher's salary. This would be coming from my Title II carryover funds. So, how do we determine the effectiveness of the Teacher Residency Academy? Well, we're going to track everything that we're doing. The teacher experts will track what they did, where they went, who they were working with, and what activity they were doing. Were they planning? Were they modeling? Were they working on a certain instructional strategy? So KickUp is a different organization that collects all of this data and they put it together so you can help tie or correlate the time spent versus change in teacher behavior. Also, they provide a click, 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 and we have reports. We know exactly where everyone, what is happening in our district, who's getting support, who needs more support, and we're making sure that we're equitable in providing that. So, understanding change and moving forward, we have a vision. We have the skills and the knowledge. We're motivating by providing an incentive. We have the resources, and you have a plan of action, which equals change. So in closing, we want to do better. We want to help our teachers. We want them to stay with us. So interestingly, a star represents our school district. But it also symbolizes positivity, happiness, and renewal. But most importantly, it guides the way. This Teacher Residency Academy will guide the way for our teachers and for other districts. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Pelton, and I can already hear the excitement at this table. One of the things that I'd like to put out there is thank you so much for having the teacher wellness as a major piece of this PD and respecting teachers as human beings.
Because
We do
it's okay
appreciate
to
it.
not be okay sometimes.
Thank you. Comments and or questions from our board members? Ms. Brown.
I would just want to thank you because this is much needed, and I think that the teachers will definitely appreciate this. And I'm just excited and want you to get started.
Thank you. I'm excited that I get to do this.
Yes.
Dr. Keith?
I just want to say it's about time. And I thank you. I thank our superintendent. I have pushed and pushed for supervisors to come back. And I think this is even better. And it's sort of like my mom said before she passed, let go and let God. And sometimes I wish I'd shut my mouth like Brenda. I've got a little thing in here just so y'all see. She wants me to shut my mouth most of the time. I did bring it. And it does say, Lord, keep your arm around my shoulder and your hand over my mouth. But I'm going to tell you this. I mean this. I am so pleased to see this because I just did the math. If we were to hire, I mean, that all that money right there, if we were to hire supervisors, it would cost us even more. So I probably should have shut my mouth, but you know what? There's a lot of things that I'm really pleased with.
I
love
appreciate
it.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Portis?
That's wonderful. Dr. Pelton,
Yes, ma'am.
when you say we, who is we? Who is the team?
It's our curriculum people, it's our PD department, and it's our retired teachers. This is a team. This isn't a me, it's a we.
Right. And I just wanted to make sure we had enough for your whole scope, your whole plan.
Well, of course, I want to make sure it's right the first year. That's why we're starting with just 100, because that gives us the opportunity to reflect and revise if necessary before we get wider and wider, because you want to get it right before you get it wide.
Thank you. Did I see your hand, Ms. Cloud?
Yes. I'm excited about if you help a new teacher do what is correct, they don't have to relearn.
Right.
Now, my question is, what if we have some principals that are that they have, like, even experienced teachers that come into the system? Because new teachers in Montgomery doesn't necessarily mean they're new teachers. How are we gonna be able to help them, maybe for just a moment, to redirect? Have you thought about that at some point?
Of course, and yes, that is in the plan for the future, because everyone deserves to be supported, especially if they need it. But not for the first year. We will provide outside assistance, but they will not be considered part of the residency, but they will be provided PD and supports.
Okay, thank you. Because I want people to be proud to be MPS teachers. Proud to be MPS teachers. I want them clamoring to get here. Thank you.
Dr. Brown?
I just wanted to say, in terms of building systemic capacity, this is all a part of the plan. We've talked ad nauseum from the very beginning about how we build systems and build capacity for individuals and for units and for teams and for schools. This is part of that. So I appreciate the board's patience in how we've put this together, because we want to do it the right way. We could easily have rushed something to do it in September of last year, and it would not have looked like this. So I'm really, really proud of what we're putting together and the team that we're assembling to make that happen, and thankful for your support in making that come to fruition as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I would like to say ditto that, Dr. Brown. I think in September it would not have looked like this. But I just want to say that is just phenomenal. I know across the board, many of us have spoken out about how we really would like to see something like this. We didn't have a word for it, but something like this in place for our teachers. I did want to ask a question, because you said new teachers. I'm assuming that includes our special education teachers as well.
If that's one of the units that the principal chooses.
Okay. Because that's another area where we tend to sadly, lose a lot of our specialty teachers in that area. And like I said, the other thing I can say is just kudos. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you guys
But I'm
for your
glad it's here.
positivity.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Dr. Pelton.
And may I say one thing? I'm liking that we're giving the principals the autonomy to choose the teachers from their school who he wants to see or she wants to see be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Chad Anderson, facilities updates.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Brown, President Coleman, and Vice President Brown, and members of the board. If you'll go through your spreadsheet with me, we'll go through our list of current projects and those that are about to begin. Volkert has already given their update. Looking at the central office consolidation, you're starting to see movement on that east side with the site work there. It is ready for binder, so that's why they've closed it off with no vehicle access, and we're kind of confined to that west side right now. We're trying to time that up as also to put that finish layer surface on the west side with painting and striping. So we're working with them, and Dr. Pelton has been just great to work with. She's really helped us over there coordinate those things and the different people in those buildings, and just has made it work, and we just really appreciate the patience and the time on that. But we are substantially complete in the three-story building. We'll have an overhead inspection next week on the east side building, the two-story building there, so we're moving along very well there. The BTW construction, if you've been by recently, you've seen the south side binder is complete, the south side of that property there. Also, they've been constructing different awnings and different such on that south side as well. They're about to move to the centerpiece, the main entrance, as far as site work to redo the asphalt and concrete apron there. And then we do have some dates that we will be happy to share, and I'm kind of going along, and we'll be meeting with Dr. Starks this week as far as moving. So I know that's a good word here coming along, but at June 19th is when we'll start moving furniture into the Magnet Arts and Black Box area of the building. So that's a large majority of the building, and we should be in good shape there. And it's also a good staging area because we have a bunch of roll-up doors and different things there to be able to get the furniture in and out easily. It'll also give us a staging area for the remainder furniture that will be going to the core curriculum side of the building as well, and let us do some items there. We have some items with the furniture because of the insurance money and the way it was structured and the way Dr. Starks and her faculty and staff spent their like teacher desk and things like that they purchased with insurance money that we will help, maintenance will help put those together and assemble those. But we also have furniture vendors that'll be bringing in their parts of the furniture, like the main office and the cafeteria and the different areas of that. So that'll begin June 19th. We're looking to for a kind of a ceremonial type thing sometime after the middle of July. Nice and hot, sorry about that, but we want to try to give them as much time to get the site ready so that we're in good shape. We're there. And then we're also, the builders, the contractors are looking to try to turn some things over where we can have faculty and staff coming into the building after the July 4th week to start setting up and get some time to put things together. I know there's been moves in the past, you know, midnight hour, like what we had to do with the burn situation, and for everybody, that was my second day on the job, so that was a very memorable event, one that we're glad we're past and going with that. But after July the 4th, we're looking to try to have some faculty and staff in there to get set up and kind of get into the flow of things and do that. And then at some point, we'll schedule an open house prior to the start of school and be able to kind of go through and see things. The athletic building, it may take us right up to the beginning of school, but we'll have access to some of those things in the athletic building. There's not as much to kind of prep and do in there, furniture and that sort of thing. It's pretty much the building, and there's a couple of offices in there, but it's mostly, once it's handed over, there's not much for us to do in that building, but it's going well. We've got some new faces out there with the contractors, and they've really been pushing and making a difference, and just glad to see that building starting to wrap up. The Goodwin HVAC project, misprinted there. It should be phase 3 that we're on. We've completed phase 2 back during the school year. That's my apologies. Phase 3 consists of the cafeteria, which they've wrapped around there and are coming towards the front of the building, the office area right there on the side next to the VA hospital, and the upstairs floor there as well with that. So they're working their way on that. What they want to do next is go down the front of the building and get that done, as much of that done as possibly, hopefully get it all done this summer so that we're not having to contend with the traffic that's out front there with the construction. And then they'll jump back into the courtyard and start working their way around to the back of the building and wrap that up. But it is moving well. It is definitely making a difference. I know you've seen the photos. We're not going to stop there. We want to clean the brick, seal that, and paint the white vertical and horizontal lines that you see there in the doors, and really dress that up, and then start turning our attention to the inside of the building like Jeff Davis, and start working those things. So we got the envelope really good and sealed up with new roof and HVAC and windows. Then we can get inside and really start transforming the educational space with that. The Brewtech HVAC project is moving well also. We're hoping to have as much of that as we're just trying to cross our fingers and get through that by the end of the summer. That's our goal. I don't know that we'll make it to that. We're going to do our very best. Those contractors are pushing. They're also the contractors on the Brew Intermediate HVAC job that has just kicked off. So there's a lot going on there. And just, again, Mr. Norad, he's been very good to work with, helped us logistically get things moved around, and the faculty and staff have done a good job there, amazing job there as well. Logistics roof and renovation is complete. We're just looking for sign off on substantial completion and a final inspection. The McKee re-roof is complete. Just completed the final inspection on that. Fitzpatrick is complete. Completed the final inspection on that one as well. Wares Ferry re-roof and Vaughn Road are set to begin. I got that today. We're set to begin Vaughn Road around June the 28th. We're going to work with Dr. Lindsay there. They have some testing going on some of those dates, so if we can't work it around a certain part of the building and get started on those dates, we'll just wait a couple of days and get started on that. And then as soon as they complete their same contractor will move to Wares Ferry to complete that roof. The J.D. Danley roof replacement is nearing completion. Metal is basically all some metal is left at Jeff Davis. They're moving over towards Danley to fix that. Some of the hold up with Danley, we had some issues over the cafeteria with decking, had to work some of those things out. A certain screw took several weeks to get in, so in that time they had moved over to Jeff Davis. We wanted them to keep going there and get that done instead of trying to jump back and forth, and they'll hopefully finish that Danley out here before the next board meeting and can give you a completion date on that. Brew Intermediate HVAC, they're working on the drop ceiling and lighting in there as we speak. There's one of the main mechanical rooms that they're starting to work on as well. We're having to work around some of the summer programs that are going on with that. The principal and all are working with us to try to make it happen. We're just trying to get all of the drop ceiling and lighting in before the school year starts, because that's the biggest kind of interruption that would be there. Most of the mechanical rooms for Brew Intermediate and Brew Primary you access from the outside of the building, so that's going to be a lot easier for us to work while the school is going on. We'll be bringing portable units for those areas where the air handlers are affecting certain classrooms, so those classrooms will have portable units, and it's about a 2 to 4 week flip from each air handler, each mechanical room to the next, so it shouldn't have those areas down for too long with just portable air units that are inside of that. The BTW traffic light, got some information on that this week as well. Everything is pretty much a go as far as lining up the materials. The poles are going to be coming in late July. The metal poles, we're working with the city and Wesley Cox and his group to possibly get some temporary poles, some temporary lights. The lights themselves will come in later in the fall, but we want to have something temporary and functioning for the first day of school and operational with that. And then we'll also, security will help with those initial days to make sure everything runs smooth as well with that. And then it'll just be kind of a swap over as we go along. They're going to get the guts of it done, the wiring and the different things like that. That's your long lead time. Swapping those poles and swapping those lights is not a very long time, so it shouldn't have us down as we swap over to those items, the permanent items with that. And then the new project that's come online, Carver High School 9th Grade Academy and Field House. Again, we're just waiting on a notice to proceed on that. One of the things, a little bit of a hold-up, contractor was paying some fees that they have to pay to the state. It's just a common practice, and with a new digital practice that DCM has, it's a little bit different than the processes we've done in the past. So it held us up for a week or two, but they're starting to get ready to mobilize, and the contractor is procuring the things that they need to procure, and subcontractors are lined up. So you'll start seeing some ground moving there here in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there questions of Mr. Anderson on the facilities update?
I have a comment. Chad, thank you so much for Vaughn Road. As you all know, these schools are in communities, so keeping them cleaned up is an issue. As soon as you all picked up that, somebody dumped some more. So we may need to put some signs. These people know it's wrong, but may need some signs. You can't dump that trash on that property. But thank you for taking care of that.
Yes, ma'am. It's sad to say it's a common practice, especially at our schools that have the Saturday dump sites with the city. I mean, we've spent thousands of dollars at Wares Ferry and put signs up, fences, gates, all of that, and they'll still drop stuff off in the parking lot. And, you know, it's a call to the city. They have to come back out. They work with us pretty good on that, and I know it's been a practice since forever. I remember being a little boy and with my grandmother dropping off stuff, so I know it's been there forever. That's something that's a good community outreach with the city. We just work together to try to get it picked up as quickly as we can so it's not an eyesore.
And Goodman looks great.
It's
Those people, I mean, it looks like Shane's the business on the other side. Say, I know y'all were building a new school. I said, yes, so we need some partners, so we'll talk to them. But it does. It looks, just the windows
Yes, ma'am.
change the whole look
When it's finished, it's gonna be really, really nice, really, really nice.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is regarding a district initiative contract. Mr. Watts, Mr. Rudolph?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Brown. We're presenting before you recommendation for a secure print management solution. Many times we have individuals that print sensitive information. We want to ensure that whoever is printing that information is indeed the individual that retrieves that information. A lot of times out in the schools, we have individuals that are printing important, sensitive student records. You have individuals here that are printing different secure information. And we just want to make sure that those individuals retrieve that information. They have their own individual code, whereas they will be the person that would go to the printer, punch in their code, and then retrieve that information, and no one else will have access to that. It would also provide us an opportunity to save some monies by controlling and keeping up with the number of prints each individual will be able to print. So we'll have some controls around that. Dr. Brown, is there anything you would like to add on that?
Just the security of it, we talked about that back in the fall, about the need to have some controls over that, so we're excited to have that addition. If I'm not mistaken, they'll be able to print anywhere in the district, is that correct?
That is correct.
So if I print something from here, and I need to go out to West Ferry Elementary to have that presentation, I can print from their printer, and there's my document. So we're excited about that technology coming into our district, so we can continue to move into the 21st century.
Oh, so,
Thank you.
so.
Go ahead with your questions.
This is not continuation of work. This is not a renewal of contract, because on the first sheet it says statement of work, April the 10th, 2022. So this is brand new.
This is brand new. It's an extension of their contract, though, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just needed that. Thank you.
Are there additional questions of Mr. Watts? Thank you again, Mr. Watts. The next item on the agenda will be Imagine Learning contract and referencing the Amplify contract at the same time. Ms. Wilson.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Brown, members of the board. Today I'm here to talk about a renewal contract with Imagine Learning, give you a little information on that. Up for approval is a 3-year contract with 950 reusable seats. And we're also including PD and digital libraries on that contract. It's a 3-year contract paid out of ESSER. We have had this contract since 21-22 school year. What's different from this contract is that we have removed all K-5 curriculum. So what you see in front of you is different in that we are no longer using the Path Blazers, MyPath, and OdysseyWare, which was the K-5 curriculums that were used in previous years. We did have additions to the seat quantity because we were over every year with the amount of seats that were used. And so we did have a significant discount, and we had additional seats onto this contract.
Are there questions regarding the contract?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Cloud.
You are, in this contract, there is, let me flip over to my notes, please. There are an IS professional development full-time on-site dedicated consultant for 1 year that is $180,000 for a year. You have another person, a professional development full-time on-site dedicated consultant for 1 year. That's another $180,000 with 3 years in place. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. With 3 years, they will, whatever the end of 3 years is, they'll be making $540,000.
No, that includes benefits, so the dollar amount is not necessarily just the salary of the take-home salary of the individual.
Right. Okay. As far as the individual, they're going to be here full-time. What is their scope of work? What will they be doing?
Right. So because of, just as Dr. Pelton has presented, we have several new vacancies, new teachers. And so in order for us to make sure that we're using the program efficiently, we have on-site PD for all users of seats. They provide data. They provide additional resources in the classroom. So there's a digital library that's also included in Edgenuity that is to support resources for 6-12 subject areas. They also support teachers in how do they use those resources in the classroom.
So there will be a schedule for these individuals to be on campus at certain times. They're just not like they're not there in case something goes awry. They're not reactive. They're going to be proactive in getting in there and showing the teachers how to use this equipment to at the best.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Job embedded coaching.
Yes, thank you.
Are there additional questions
Yeah,
regarding the contract, Dr.
I have
Key?
a comment. Okay. I've looked at everything, and I only have one negative statement tonight of the whole night, and the rest of it I will shut up. But I'm adamantly opposed to Edgenuity, adamantly. I mean, I can't stress it enough. We've seen, I'm not going to point out schools, but we've just seen in the last month that's happened. I'm at South University at least for another day. And you know, what I'm telling you is it's like a drug. When you give money to addicts, they just take advantage of it. We are setting our kids up for failure with the Edgenuity contract. We did it last minute. I had a fit. I don't want to read I've taken pictures of what. I'm just going to leave it at that. I've taken pictures of I've told you I've gone round and round with this bald man over here, and I don't want to read. And I am adamantly opposed. And if you get me started, I'm going to read a lot from the state and from some of my texts because that makes me that mad. I'm just being very clear about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson, the Amplify contract recension.
Yes. So in May, if you remember, I came to present Amplify as the early literacy board state approved vendor that we chose. And so up for legislation, House Bill 430 was amended, which allowed for K-3 to have iReady added to the literacy vendors. We are excited about that. That supports us. So now we are looking to discontinue the Amplify, save money. But we also have some continuity, some vertical alignment. We now have the same universal screener, K-8, math and reading.
Go ahead.
Back to what Dr. Keith, will we ever leave Ingenuity, or is that where we are right now?
That's where we are right now with the plan to continue to wean ourselves off of it.
Well, may I say something?
Go right ahead.
I
Ms.
wish
Cloud.
that we would wing ourselves. I understand a year. I'm not happy about that, but 3 years? That's just extending the crack, you know?
3 years is just.
Are there additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you. The next item.
I do want to say, do we bring it up in the major board meeting? This is my, even though I've been on here for God knows how long, when do we vote to table it? Is that later or today?
You could vote to table it, you could vote to vote it down, you could vote to approve it. That would be
Would
the
that be
board's
the
discretion.
next meeting
That
of
is,
this?
that is on the regular board meeting.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yonder pouches, Ms. Tony Patterson.
President Coleman, Dr. Brown, board members, the use of cell phones among students in our schools has become a significant issue in recent times. It affects their education, their socialization, and most importantly, their safety. The cell phones create distractions during class, and they can also be used for cheating. On many occasions, they can lead to cyberbullying, sexting, and other dangerous activities. Now that we are one-to-one with computers in our district, cell phones are no longer needed in the classrooms. The contract that you have before you tonight is to address this issue with the purchase of Yonder bags for our middle and high school students. Yonder bags are ideal for ensuring safety. And these are what those bags look like. When you place those phones in the bags, students will no longer be able to access them while they're in class. We place them in the bag, lock them here. They can't unlock them without using a magnet to get into them. And I do have a magnet. When you share those bags with the board members, that's what they look like. When the phones are placed in the bag, students are free from calls and notifications that can create distractions. Now, with the phones in the bags, students are forced to pay attention, socialize with peers during breaks and lunch times, thereby creating a noisier but safer learning environment. Noisier because now they're talking as opposed to scrolling through their phones. At the end of the day, students can quickly retrieve their phones from the bags. After becoming aware of this issue, Dr. Brown asked us to survey our principals for feedback. 18 out of 19 of our secondary principals were interviewed regarding whether or not cell phones were issues in their building. And 100% of the principals that were interviewed, both magnet and traditional, and several of the teachers as well, were 100% in favor of Yonder bags. As a team, we also had an opportunity to meet with the principal at Stan Holt Elmore High School. He implemented this solution about a year ago. When asked his feelings about the bags, he said, and I quote, "I would not open another school without these bags." He saw increased student engagement, grades improved, and discipline referrals went down. To this end, we are asking that you approve this contract to help our teachers and our principals better help our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson.
Can I make one more statement?
Oh, absolutely.
In support of this effort, several of our high schools and middle school principals are here with me today. Would you please stand? In support of this effort. Also, Mr. Matthew Monson wished that he could be here, but he asked me to extend to you the fact that he was interested in having a conversation with you about it, but he was definitely on board with these Yonder bags. So just wanted
Thank
to
you. Dr. Key?
Two questions, because this is the first time I kind of looked over it, but who, I mean, they put in the bag.
They do.
Who's got the magnet? Who's got the opener?
So let me show you what they look like.
That's what I want to know.
The teacher, it'll be in the classroom.
Mine is here in the.
Okay. Right, okay, so
And
we're
that's
like
how
a
they open it.
store, like the
That's
little.
exactly right.
Okay.
And so the consultant from the company will come in to each location, evaluate how many magnets are needed in order to move students in and out of the building at an efficient rate. So each school will get magnets based on how many they need.
Okay,
And
I
so-
suspect, and this is just me being devil's advocate, I suspect that you're gonna run into blips, as you start this program. But what's gonna happen when the kid goes, I ain't put it in there, what then what? I mean, do we got rules, or we gonna have?
That's when we're gonna exercise the code of conduct.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so this happens first thing in the morning? I mean, they put it in first thing in the morning?
That's correct. They will put them in first thing in the morning, and they will keep them with them throughout the day, but they will have them in the bag the entire time.
And when we find out they didn't put in the bag, that's the code of conduct.
That's correct.
And what if they get damaged, like cut on the end or something?
That will be addressed in the policy and code of
You
conduct.
see what I'm saying?
Yes,
And this is for what grades?
middle school through high school.
Okay, thank you.
Are there additional questions?
Can we do this for teachers, some teachers?
Just for further context, I'll share with you on Friday an article from the Atlantic, which I just found on Monday, which references this very issue and gives some context and scientific support for it, and ironically enough, mentions yonder bag specifically in the article. So I feel as though this is going to be a very positive thing for our district, for our students in their learning, their ability to learn and focus. And we'll have some pushback that we'll need to deal with, I'm sure, because there'll be some folks who will say, well, what if my child needs to catch me in an emergency? Well, if that's the case, I would much rather have one call to EMS than I would for 300 calls coming to EMS. So we'll deal with that when that bridge needs to be crossed.
One last thing. I would just like the media out there, if y'all would put something this important out there, like this yonder deal, hey, it gets the message out there. So I'm just kind of prompt there, you know.
I suspect they're going to talk to us after the meeting.
Okay. Ms. Patterson, thank you so much. Power School?
Power School, we're asking you to approve the switch from our current registration vendor to Power School enrollment for new and returning student registration. This change will not only improve our registration process, but it will also save us money.
Okay. Thank you. Are there questions regarding Power School enrollment? Okay, again, Ms. Patterson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Watts will now present the April financial statement.
Show me the money.
Again, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Brown. You should have before you the financial statement for the month of April of 2023. April represents the 7th month of the fiscal year, which is about 58% of the fiscal year, 58.3% of the fiscal year. The information in the financial statement includes the explanation of financial data, which is basically a discussion by me of the district's financial standing, a snapshot analysis, which is a brief synopsis of our district's financial position, monthly budget percentages, again, the 7th month of the fiscal year is about 58.3%, a monthly and annual comparative statement of revenues and expenditures, basically a comparative of our month-to-date and year-to-date revenues and expenditures compared to the prior year's revenues and expenditures. A statement of cash flow, statement of cash received and cash paid for the fiscal year, pie chart of those cash received and cash paid, a combined financial statement, which includes the combined balance sheet, which speaks to our financial position, and a combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which is basically our income statement. We were to turn to section 2 of the financial statement. You would notice that total revenues thus far this year is about $161 million, expenditures at about $150 million. So that's about a $10 million increase. Ending fund balance of about $94.8 million in our general fund. We also note that last year at this time, April of 2022, our fund balance was at about $88.3 million. Currently, fund balance at about $94.8 million. Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Are there questions of Mr. Watts regarding the financial statement? Hearing no questions, Mr. Watts, the amended budget
Yes,
information.
absolutely. Madam President, as you know, we have to present an amended budget each fiscal year. The amended budget is basically needed because as you know, we present our annual operating budget in September. After we present that annual operating budget, throughout the year, there are numerous grants that we receive both from the state and federal government. And we have to account for those new revenues and expenditures because we will be expending those funds in the amended budget. It also provides us an opportunity to recognize carryover funds. Carryover funds are dollars that we did not expend in fiscal year 2022 but we are provided the opportunity or allowed the opportunity to bring those monies forward in 2023. And so the amended budget allows us to account for those particular funds. And of course, I think I provided you a reconciliation of the budget amendment, which includes about $23.4 million in the general fund, about $68 million in our federal revenues, special revenue fund, which is basically our federal dollars, with the majority of that being our ESSER funds. And of course, we see the amount in our capital fund. Madam President.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding the budget, the amendment?
Just one, and first of all, I thank you and Dr. Brown and whomever else board members for always staying in touch with our legislators to let them know what our priorities are so that we don't miss out as well. One of the other things with the ESSER funds, have you heard, and this may or may not be true, but I'm hearing this out there in the wind with other governmental entities about the ESSER funds having to be spent before a certain time. Has anything like that come up?
Yes, ma'am. ESSER 2.
Well, sooner, let me just say this, sooner than what was originally stated.
No.
Okay.
No, it hadn't been,
Okay.
ESSER 2 funds have to be expended by the end of this fiscal year. ESSER 3 funds have to be expended or obligated by September 30th of 2024. However, they are allowing us to basically obligate those funds by the end of 2024, but they must be expended by 2026.
Right. Well, there's
So they
just
did
some,
provide us a little bit of, leverage there.
there's
a little
just
room there.
something out there in the wind that I started hearing about, and I wanted to ask. I hate I asked on this public forum, but I just thought of it.
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of want to say this in a public forum just to also give context to that. I do think there are legislators out there who are not public school friendly, who are lobbying, if you will, to make that move forward quicker. I do not anticipate that's going to happen, as Mr. Watts has shared, but I do think that that desire for some is out there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. There are often times that we as a board get a chance to do professional development ourselves in order to serve you better. But when we cannot all participate at one time, we do have members who are willing to go the extra mile, get out there and do some extra studying, and they bring their knowledge to share with us. At this time, we will hear from two of our colleagues, Ms. Pamela Portis and Ms. Erica Watkins-Smith will talk to us about a recent experience.
I'm sorry, I was picking up a pen.
Pay attention.
Oh, y'all get up there. Yeah.
Dr. Coleman, speaking of, Ms. Smith and I went to Tampa. We went to the Cosbo, conference. It was my first as a board member, and I was really blown away. One of the things that, and I'm gonna tell you what caught my attention most, they had so many, nicely prepared conferences, and I'll say this in a nice way. What my very first experience as a board member, the group that I learned from pretty much decided to tell us kind of what to think. This group of professionals, as a board member, showed us what we should be considered. I know sometimes it feels like we ask a lot of questions, and because we don't understand it, we don't work in it, we are responsible for this money, we're responsible for these children, we're responsible for you all as staff members, so we have to, I really speak like, ooh, that sounds wonderful. We are, so we have to be diligent in what we do. The board that I spent the most time was a board from Detroit, Michigan. All of their board members came to Tampa. They traveled together. They traveled with their superintendent, and they've hired a grant writer. They travel with that person also. And I noticed in sitting with them, they were so knowledgeable about what goes on in their district. I heard them reaching out to people. I heard them tell a waitress, if you come to Detroit and you want to teach or you want to be, your personality is just what we're looking for. They went to bat for their system because they knew it so well. This really struck me as something that we can do. They did not agree with each other all the time, but the temper of their disagreement was profound to me because they listened to each other, they were together. I don't have all these handouts she have because Dr. Colton told me don't talk long. And so that was one of the
I
things.
second that.
And this is what I obtained from them. They said a good board must have a clear vision. They must set goals. They must focus on student achievement, build positive relationships, connect with community, strategically use resources, monitor progress using data, and remember that accountability can be delegated, but responsibility cannot. So as we're responsible for so many things, I go to these, and I'll continue to go to these conferences. Well, till Mr. Watts tell me we can't afford it anymore. But it's good to see what they're thinking outside of Alabama. If we're rearing children to go anywhere, then we ought to know what anywhere is thinking. We ought to know what the other board members in different states on the other side of the world are doing and how it benefits us here at home. So it was well worth the money. I would go with that group again. Because I think it brought so many things, what I should be thinking about, and then some of the things not to think about. It helps me trust Dr. Brown to make the decisions that I'm not qualified to make. And I don't mind saying that because I heard a preacher say once that when you hire your weaknesses, then he said when you hire your weaknesses, it completes you. But when you hire your strengths, it competes you. So I am satisfied with, if he said, Ms. Portis, it's okay, because I'm going to come back to him if he's wrong, because you know sometimes men could be wrong. But I'm going to come back to him and get him. But I trust him in building my board community. And these ladies have been through so much already, and they train us up to tell us, no, this is how you do that. So I'm thankful for that. And I think we're on the right track as we go forward and we become a cohesive group. You'll see the difference. We have some great things coming. And I think you'll be happy with it. And this makes me happy to know that I went and got a little bit more learned.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I do not have those phenomenal quotes like Ms. Portis has. I'm just kind of a straight shooter. But I do want to bring your attention to the first one that I passed out. It was a comprehensive mental health program, and it was the district's view. So I just kind of put some sticky notes in there for you to just look over some things. But there were 4 areas that they focused on. Their why. And I've heard that so many times throughout all of our training. Whether it was this training or training that we do here locally. But I do encourage us to really step outside to see what everybody else is doing. I got the honor and the pleasure of hanging out with the Ohio school board and had a good breakfast, Ms. Portis, if you can recall. I wasn't invited, but I invited myself, and they received me well. But that was one of the things that everybody that I talked to talked about, their why. So in here, this is addressing, like I said, mental health. Why is a comprehensive mental health program necessary? What is their model? What does our program look like, and how did we build it? Our programming, what evidence-based programs do we use? And then what now? And what I found so fascinating, one, is just the partnerships that were built into this. MTSS was built into this. It helped everybody to know the roadmap of how you're going to go in, not to just support a child on the academic side, but also on that mental and social emotional side. One of the other thing that they talked about was trauma. And here in Montgomery, and I guess that's why it stuck out to me, because our children see so much. The pandemic took a toll on our children. It took a toll. We talked about the adults, but we also know how that played into the children's lives. Staying at home, being in some unfriendly environments, and then having to come back to school and process that. So I'm appreciative of the work that we're doing as a district to address those things, but a comprehensive plan helps everybody. It guides everybody in how we need to move collectively and together. One of the other things that they talked about, again, our model to address the needs. They talked about, and another thing that I found fascinating, they didn't have a lot of money, but they made sure that they used that money wisely to put counselors in every school. And they didn't do it in 1 year. They phased it in. They truly looked at their needs assessment and brought counselors in, mental health support people in, mental health liaisons in, and even trained the children on how to be ambassadors of mental health and taught them in trainings. It was the STAR program where they came together and learned how to work with their peers who are dealing with suicide ideation or suicide attempts or having unsuccessfully committed suicide, or maybe having had the experience of dealing with a peer who may have attempted suicide and was sadly successful at it. So it talked about, again, all of the community partners that they brought in. They set up grants. And they had a criteria for those grants for different nonprofit organizations to partner with them. They had a really cohesive partnership with their mental health institution, organization, in their area. And they also, what else did I want to say about that? And they utilized them well, so everything was just a partnership. Everything, even sitting in meetings, whether it was, of course, with the consent of parents in IEP meetings, if that child had some type of issue that needed to be addressed on the mental or social emotional side. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was just to name a few of their intervention programs. They had the STAR Trauma Certification, where anybody in the community who wanted to help the schools, because most people, when I go out and talk to community members, they're like, what can I do? How can I help? You know, how can I be a part of this? The STAR Trauma Certification gave teachers an opportunity to be STAR certified for mental health, students, principals, community members, nonprofit organizations, anybody that wanted to come in to help could come in to help. And here's one of the things that they said: this program has been very beneficial for my students who work with the mental health liaison. And that's the person, again, that is connected from the school to the community. They go out into the homes. They make sure that the resources that their school district said are there and available to them, that they are aware of it. And it also says they have grown a lot of, the parent rather, he has grown a lot of regulating his emotions. So this is just showing you how parents are benefiting from this, because the more you learn things about mental health, you do kind of do a self-inventory, and then you start reaching out. And there are people sometimes that they don't know that they're experiencing some type of trauma or mental health. And this kind of highlighted that, so the parent not only got support, but also got certified to help other people. They had a ROCKS program. This dealt with girls who often try to fit in, and there are a lot of us up here who were girls a long time ago, but just yesterday. But it gives them an opportunity to speak up, to go into leadership roles confidently, to encourage other girls to be leaders themselves, and it gave them a space to express themselves without judgment, and I love that part. Another program, the other thing, and I'm trying to get through this in my 5 minutes, but the other thing that I like is everybody gave an account. Every nonprofit, every organization had to provide data. to the school administrators as well as the board, so that everybody would know what they're doing and the impact of their work to the students. And last and not least, because I'm really brushing through this, they talked about their process, how they got started. It got started with conversations, knowing what was needed, not just internally inside of the central office, but talking to people on the outside. What are some of the things you're seeing out in the community that's maybe not working in the best interest of the community? And what would you like to see? What types of services would you like to see out here? So the two things they said is to collect data from your counselors, and then use your local ratio data, and that's information that comes from the State Department in their area house. And then it said, lastly, consider an audit. Audit what you're doing, come up with a plan, and work your plan. And that's that for that one. Now, real quick to the other one, because I killed a lot of trees to get this to y'all. Trending up, Memphis, Shelby County, these ladies were phenomenal. And I'll try to keep it real quick. Talk about 21st century. They are on it, Dr. Brown. I think you still are ahead of them. You know, I'm just being biased, but that's a good bias. But they really put a lot of work in identifying the achievement needs of their schools. And what I like, the biggest takeaway was they talked to other school districts, and it was the work of the superintendent and the board. And they got with urban school districts to talk about those unique needs that urban school districts experience, whether it's achievement, whether it's social emotional, whether it's economic, like you name it, they talked about it. And they weren't ashamed to talk about what they weren't doing, but they had a run and go plan to go and make things happen, to fix it. So if it was something that people were talking about on Twitter or Facebook, it became quickly a distant memory because they really put it together, a really good plan. And this one, again, was in Memphis, Shelby County. So you all have it. You can read. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I love to share it in detail, and hopefully when we have a retreat, we can talk about that one. But it was a phenomenal conference, and I do look forward to having that continuous professional growth as I serve in my capacity. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Lisa has a question, by the way.
I do not remember giving that time limit of 5 minutes, but anyway. Dr. Keith, go ahead.
Just a shorty, and my last, hopefully. I just want to say, Erica and Pam Portis, you are beaming, and the energy that you have, this is exciting. It's exciting as hearing about the phone from Dr. Patterson and from Dr. Pelton. This is honest. Y'all are gonna think I'm high. I don't get high, at least now. But I mean, I'm just telling you. I'm just excited to. This has been the best meeting. It has been the best meeting. Now you two up front, y'all are about snoozing, okay? But you're men, and it's okay. But it was that good. I just loved it. You know, I just.
Are there other comments or questions? Go ahead. Dr.
Just one
Brown.
comment. As we build ours, we actually just met with ROCKS earlier this year to come here as well. That's not an organization we're unfamiliar with. So that partnership will be launching. I'll share some information on that soon as well.
And I had one more comment. This was when you were hired, Dr. Brown. You mentioned another organization you work with, and I hope I don't mess it up. Panorama
Ed.
Yeah, and
That's a survey instrument that can be used to measure social emotional learning.
yes. So I mean, you mentioned it, and I looked into it. So hopefully you'll keep bringing those good things.
Yeah, the district you shared, Gahanna Jefferson Schools, was actually the neighbor of Reynoldsburg City Schools where I left.
Oh, okay.
So I talk with the
Good deal.
superintendent very often.
Okay.
I'm glad my colleagues have a sense of humor. I did ask for an overview of what they experienced, and yes, I think a more detailed explanation, description of what you experienced will definitely be on the agenda for the retreat. The one thing that I appreciated from what I've heard, not only do these excursions give us an opportunity to learn, but it also gives us an opportunity to celebrate what we're already doing well. You know, those things that we're not doing well, we can learn. Those that we are doing well, we can keep doing them or elevate. So thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. At this time, new business, I will go ahead and say first, if you don't mind, that recently we were presented with some PTA standards, and we've been asked to consider adopting those standards as a group. I believe that you've had the opportunity to review them, but just in case, they will be sent to you. I sent them maybe yesterday, and they will be sent to you in more detail and an opportunity to review so that we can definitely take a vote in July. Are there other new business items? Dr. Kidd, go ahead.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say we do have the county council PTA and other PTA members that serve in your official capacities. If you all would please stand. I see Mrs. Brutek and Paula, and we also have the state PTA also present, Paula. So I'm sure that they are elated to hear this news. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick, Dr. Coleman, is I want to thank ASU for doing a phenomenal job in opening classes for our dual enrollment program. So I have to give some shout outs with some names. So Dr. Bird and Dr. Freddie Williams, who else? There was just the English department overall, and I can't remember, I know her name starts with a P. Miss Foster, yes. And Trenum, there was Dr. I'm sorry, I don't think she's doctor, but her name is Foster at Trenum. Kelly at AUM and Lucas. And from the University of Alabama, I had Emily and Allison. So they were just phenomenal in working with our students and helping to create those opportunities, because as Dr. Brown says, we want to make sure our kids have opportunity and access, and they did both of those for us. And I hope to continue to see that grow and those opportunities to continue to be there for our students and support them as they go about their goals and dreams and their personal missions.
Thank you. Dr. Key?
Yeah, as far as this is new business,
Yes.
right? I would like to see, and then let me finish for you, it's like cram on me, okay? I would like to see, we have all these audits. We had a system audit, we had a curriculum audit, we've had the Mercer audit, and I realize they can be 900 or 1,000 pages, and that's not what I'm asking for. If we just got some kind of summary, because we do them, and then, we've had, and I'm like Jade, where's Jade? Jade, there you are. Oh, okay, all right. But we did these things to be on the MPS website, and we come down here and do them, and then we say we're doing them, and then we never really get the picture. We hear glimpses, and like I said, I kudos to Dr. Brown and his board connections. I refused to read them, when he first came on, but now I realize there's a lot of good information in it. And I think what Erica said on the audit, I've been on I'm not, this is not a good thing, but I've been on this board almost 9 years. And I can honestly attest that I've done the wrong thing for 9 years. Finally, somebody said, Lise, do the audit, think audit. And when you audit, even though I brought up Edgenuity night, we'll audit it and find out how many schools use it, how many schools, what happens when they go to college. I want the data. I've asked that for whatever, and I'm getting it, but I would just like to see the results of these audits, and I would like the audits to continue.
Just for context, the curriculum audit we initiated in March, I informed the board at that point we get our report in June. We are now in June, and that was delivered to my desk on Monday. So I'm doing the last minute edits on those, hopefully to get you a preliminary copy of the executive summary, probably by Friday, no later than next Friday.
Thank you. That's it.
And Dr. Coleman, to prove that we are holding our counterparts accountable, she asked questions
Thank you, thank you. Are there, yes.
Okay, new business. Going along with what, Ms. Watkins Smith said, as far as dual enrollment, I would really like to see, maybe we could get AUM's partner, ASU, maybe not so much the University of Alabama, although we could do something, over the internet.
Or
Why
South.
why can't they come into the schools? Because some of our children have a challenge with getting there.
Those conversations are already in the works.
Oh, no.
Okay, are there additional questions? Hearing none, we're going to adjourn the work session and move into our business session. The work session is adjourned. At this time, the June 13 regular meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education will come to order.
It was some good conference. That's all right. That's why we went and brought y'all the stuff. It'll be in Texas next year.
Thank you. Good evening again, and thank you for those who are staying with us, and those who are joining us online. A majority of the voting members present does constitute a quorum for the meeting of our Board of Education. We have 7 members present. A quorum is present. At this time, excuse me, please. I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege. You might have noticed last month that there was a candle memorial set in the corner of this room. That was in memory of a very supportive community member, Ms. K.T. Brown. And some of you noticed it and spoke to it, but many people did not. So in order to do what we think is appropriate, and several board members at this table have asked for this, so we will follow through. I'm going to ask you respectfully to join us in a moment of silence in memory of one of the strong supporters of our community and the children of our city, Ms. K.T. Brown. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will note that our agenda was posted in Assembly and has been available for review. If there's no objection, we will adopt that agenda by unanimous consent. Is there objection to adopting our agenda? Is there objection? Hearing no objection, our agenda has been adopted by unanimous consent. Next on the agenda will be remarks. I hope this one isn't too long. I'll skip if I get too winded. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. It is unfortunate that many in our community know too well the consequences of this epidemic among our families and our friends. School boards often function as building blocks of politics and remind us that politics is local. We cooperate with local and state governance bodies, and our advocacy may reach all the way up to the federal level, where local politics is the ideal entry point for community members to engage in advocacy work. Our students are key stakeholders in the work that we do as school board representatives, from approving curriculum, determining budgets, and/or enforcing health and safety guidelines. Student safety is a priority for each of us, so gun violence prevention and school safety fit directly into their line of work. School boards have the power to pass resolutions, disseminate information, spark change that can impact the actions of other districts, other superintendents, and we can go, up through state government. gun safety is a top-tier political issue, and I hope that this board and district will take the lead in our community in advocating for greater policies that will make our schools and communities safer. School vacation. The first days of summer and Juneteenth for many are sufficient reasons for celebrating the month of June. But there is much more to celebrate in Montgomery Public Schools. We encourage students and teachers to relax and to reflect on your achievements and prepare yourselves for those new and exciting adventures that are coming. Spend some quality time with your family and friends, and do include exploration and learning in your itineraries. MPS is offering a variety of summer programs that will support student learning and development. From dance to taekwondo, basketball, tennis, summer camps galore that have academic, athletic, and aesthetic support and development. We have ASU's SkyCap program, AUM's basketball program that are posted on our website. We are offering phenomenal bridge opportunities for our rising 6th graders, our rising 9th graders. And we are offering enrichment and support for our students across the district. Our MPS family has launched and is working on a portrait of a graduate. The creation of this initiative focuses on preparing our kids to meet the demands of a diverse global society. I have received a lot of positive feedback in the community from those who were introduced to the portrait of a graduate. The development of a detailed strategic plan is underway that will guide our district, and you asked for it, you got it. The district is convening a student advisory committee to ensure that students' voices are a central part of our discussions. Although the school year has ended, the 2023-2024 convocation and other epic back-to-school experiences are already in development. There are some district highlights, and I'll try to get through those rather quickly. Let's start by highlighting the transformation of the library at Brubaker Middle School. With the help of Ed Farm, an educational nonprofit from Birmingham, we have the Library of Technology, also known as The Loft, which is a technological hub. It offers a variety of wonderful experiences for our students. Another exciting event that has occurred since our last meeting was the 2023 Elementary Robotics Competition, which brought together 23 schools and more than 300 students. We'd like to thank the Montgomery County Commission and the Montgomery Sheriff's Office for donating a decommissioned patrol car for Law Enforcement Services Academy at Impact. And finally, Booker T. Washington Magnet High student Isabella Dennison has placed 3rd in the 2023 Congressional District Art Competition for Alabama's 7th District. You might remember that Isabella finished 1st in this same competition last year. Congratulations on all of the achievements throughout the district. Please, let's applaud our achievers. At this time, Ms. Jade Jones will present some additional recognitions. Ms. Jones.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Brown, and board members. Madam President, if I may, and please forgive me if I may take a point of privilege here, if we can please keep the family of Kenneth Waters, who was an employee at Alabama State. He was a true partner of Montgomery Public Schools. He was very important to us as he headed up the COM University partnership that we had. And also, I just learned that Dr. Ross, the president of Alabama State, lost his father recently. So our hearts and thoughts go out to the families and also to the entire Alabama State University. So we want to keep them uplifted.
Absolutely. Thank you for informing us.
Yes, ma'am. To shift gears slightly, this evening I have some special guests, and they are the 5A state champions Brew Tech softball team. as they parade in, this was the first MPS softball team ever to win a state championship, and they did it in a dominating fashion. Coach Chris Steiner was named, and again, Madam President, real quickly, Coach Chris Steiner was named 5A Coach of the Year. Pitcher Tamaya Brown was named both Pitcher of the Year and Player of the Year. In addition, Kamaya Brown, Gabby York, and Grace Hunter were all named to the 5A All-Star team. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Madam President and board members, if I may point out, I believe that Kamaya and tonight, are they twins? Is that right? So let's give them all a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, you're 5A state champions. If we can now take a picture with the board, we would love to do that. And as we're doing that, Coach, if you would like to say a couple words. You're fine.
I just want to say it's been an honor and privilege to coach these young ladies for the last 2 years and represent Brewtech Magnet School. We appreciate all the love and support. We had a lot of fans and a lot of family up at the Oxford tournament. To represent MPS was really big for us. To be the first in school history and the first in MPS history is really a great honor that we will always have and we will always cherish. So we finally got a blue map to take back to the school. We're all sharing it though, just so you know. But we do really appreciate everything y'all have done for us. We appreciate our coaches. I'm the head coach, but these two do most of the work. I don't even write the lineup. Brink writes the lineup, so I'm more of the yeller and just, I'm just there. But anyway, and to Coach Dykes, our AD, who's been very supportive and helpful because I don't actually work at the school where Brink does, so Brink's had to be the middleman for everything. But I do appreciate my time and effort at Brewtech and all the parents, our faculty and staff. I mean, they've been nothing but great for us. The parades and all the recognition and being here tonight, to be here for y'all, to know that we represented y'all with class and dignity, and that we have a couple of seniors that are all moving on to the next level and playing softball at the next level, and that they'll carry on that rich MPS softball traditional history, that they'll always have something to come back for. So sorry I didn't have anything planned to speak tonight, but I do appreciate y'all doing this for us and taking time out of your busy schedule. It is the summer, but we do, and this means more to y'all, to them, than you'll ever really know. How hard they've worked to get here and what it took to get here is just amazing. And one day somebody will understand, for any team to be able to win a state championship, everything has to work together and everything has to come together at the right time. And these kids are truly amazing individuals at the school, on the softball field, and in real life. And I know you don't know them like I know them, but I'm super proud of them, and thank you for everything.
We'll have everyone take a picture. Yeah. Yeah, Jason. Wait, 116, Scott. Hold on 1 second. There you go. Yeah. Are y'all pretending? Oh, okay. Good job. Okay. All right. Let's give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, no. Jay.
I told the twins, I said, there's double trouble for the other 10.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, so much. Congratulations. Good job. Great job. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again. Ms. Jones? Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Scheduled public comments. There is one person who has signed up for public comments. Note that requests must be made for those participating in board meetings. Requests must be made in advance in writing to the superintendent's office by 4:30 on the Tuesday preceding the meeting date. Requests must have specified the nature of the business to be taken up with the board and the name of the person who will address the board to be added to the agenda. Communications must be respectful. Discussing specific student or employee matters will not be allowed. Individuals who have concerns that are inappropriate to be solved in this venue are welcome to seek a problem-solving meeting with the superintendent. Immediate feedback by the board may not be provided. However, you may be contacted for follow-up by the superintendent or his designee. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes. The board chairman has full authority to terminate the remarks of any person whose comments contain personal attacks, exceed the time limit, or are otherwise inappropriate. A speaker may be considered disruptive who continues to speak when their allotted time has ended, when asked to stop speaking by the board chair, or is otherwise inappropriate. If a person fails to comply when asked to terminate comments, he or she will be escorted to their seat or out of the auditorium and or off the MPS property, depending on the level of disruption. At this time, we welcome Jean Charbonneau, BTW's new campus.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to address you. I agree with you, Dr. Keith. I have attended a lot of board meetings over the course of the last decade, and this has been a very productive board meeting. I am very excited about things like not just the completion of BTW, but I have 4 children of my own, and controlling cell phones in schools is a good thing. I think teacher professional development is on the board. I am here very specifically to say that I have had and appreciate the time and attention and the vision of this board and the staff members who have worked to make our new dream a reality. Because when the fire occurred in August 1818, for those of us who are involved in BTW, is a moment in history that is literally burned into our memories. It was a very rough time for MPS in general. We had been under state intervention for a year. During the time from the fire to moving in this summer, we've had 3 state superintendents. We've had several district superintendents. We've had turnovers on our board. And we have had COVID, just to name a few things that we've had to deal with. And the focus, the inflation that has occurred, and I wanted to thank you very specifically. I have worked with, very professionally with Mr. Watts and Mr. Anderson about, they are approachable and responsive when emailed or contacted, as are all of the board members that I have had the privilege to work with. And I don't think it is said often enough that the new direction is visible for those of us who have been here for over a decade. The the professional development for board members, talking about cohesion of a board. That hasn't always been the case at MPS. And there are some of us who have a history and who have witnessed some of the tensions that have occurred. And I want to applaud you for your vision, for moving forward, and to let you know that there are a lot of people like me out in the community. And it doesn't get said often enough. We're a military family. We could have gone anywhere. We were used to moving around every 2 or 3 years. And we stayed. We chose to make Montgomery our home because of the schools, not because of all of the bad press that was being, printed and aired for many, many, many years. We were fortunate when we came out of Maxwell to get into the magnet schools, and it was a decisive reason why we stayed. When the fire occurred and the community came together and got us into Hayneville Road, you didn't stop there. We pushed forward. We had a delay. We were supposed to move in last year. That was the original plan. COVID hit, inflation hit. There have been so many complications and so many obstacles that you and your team have worked diligently to overcome. And I want you to know that it is appreciated and it is acknowledged. And we, from the bottom of our heart, I am just the spokesperson for many, many people.
Time.
From the bottom of our heart, thank you.
Look, you know I didn't want to call time on that, but thank you very, very much. Okay, there are no citizens' comments signed up for at this time. We are at our consent agenda. Dr. Brown.
On the agenda for approval is our consent agenda with items A through I. Those are up for action. I recommend we approve those and ask that you approve those. Yes, A through L, excuse me. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve items A through L. Oh, well,
That's when you do it.
that's fine.
You're right.
I want to
Is
make
it-
a motion.
Yeah, that's when you do it.
Yeah, I want to make an ocean that, motion. Okay, I want to make a motion that we table, item E. Before we do that.
I second it.
Thank you.
Up for discussion?
I just, I hope,
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I had to consult. There was a motion on the floor. Ms. Watkins-Smith moved to accept the recommendation. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, there's a second.
Discussion.
Is there a discussion?
Yes, and that's where I would make, well, I would like to make sure we pull item E.
Could I
You
get,
can amend that motion.
I'd like to amend that motion to vote on the consent agenda with all but E.
Okay, at this time,
To table it.
you want to table, not
Table it-
postpone.
Table it so, for discussion for later.
could I give some context really quickly? Just so you're aware, if we discontinue at this point, we won't have any credit recovery in our district. Our STAR and RISE programs will not have an option for credit, and 78% of our usage is for teacher vacancies. 18% is for STAR and RISE programs. One last point, 4% is used for school recovery based on usage data, and we don't use it to replace teachers. Just wanted to give that context so we know what we'd be sacrificing if we take that action tonight.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Pull that card. So here we go. Okay, I'm gonna pull this, okay? Let me go here.
Ms. Keith, I was just giving information.
Okay, and
I'm not contesting.
Okay, I'm just saying, the urgency of having it to do right now and not next month, there are other programs out there that we can research. And to table it, to rush it, bothers me. Like I said, this is setting our students up for failure. We just had I won't say which school, but we just had a student that shouldn't have walked across the stage that took chemistry, 143 units of it in 3 days. Okay, I have a huge issue with that. I have the state telling me that they can do a whole program in 2 weeks. That's not what you go to school for. You earn a credit. We are still, and I have been angry about this for years. The whole deal, this goes back to the grade changing. This is why I am turning red and purple in the face right now, okay? Because what the deal is here, there's a minimum requirement, 40, to get in there. I'm hearing time and time again that these people are sliding on in there. Then, I don't want to go into the time-stamped information that I have where counselors over at another school are time-stamping something at 126. This is how my heart is racing right now, and I'm 64 years old. But when you time-stamp at 126 and the child doesn't start until 2 o'clock, okay, that day, that's an impossibility. The highest grade they're supposed to have in Edgenuity is 70. When that child's running around with an 84 on a report card, I have concerns. If it happens once, it happens across the board. There's no reason not to table this for at least 1 more month. There's got to be something better.
Just so you know, I'm not disagreeing with you, just want to give additional context.
Thank you. Yes,
I do agree. I do agree it deserves some attention, because as a teacher that uses it successfully, there are some restraints to some of this stuff these kids get into and are allowed to take. So if it's done right, it may be more beneficial to us, but you're absolutely right, in my opinion, it's worth the look, because if we're going forward, we want to give them the best opportunity.
Yes,
Okay, one additional, yes.
I'm going to second her motion to table item E.
I'm going to pay y'all's $5 after the meeting.
Okay.
Please.
It has been moved and seconded that we table item E out of the consent agenda. And we have had discussion. We'll take the vote. All those in favor of tabling, raise your hand.
Well, I'm just on the fence. I should have jumped in the discussion, but I was listening.
Okay, it's 3 to 4. It fails.
No, I
I'm
see
still-
a half a hand. I'm seeing a half a
Yeah.
hand.
Because I missed the discussion part, I'm going to abstain. I'm sorry. Because it's some valid points being made, and I wish we could have talked about this doing more in-depth during that time so that I can have.
Why we table it. That's why we're tabling.
That's why you're
Okay.
tabling, to
Yeah.
have that
Yeah,
conversation.
all
Okay.
right. We're just
Well,
tabling.
if it's going to go ahead, we'll.
That's fine.
Out.
Okay, if it's 4 to 3, it passes to table. So at this time, we will move back to the original motion, consent agenda, items A through L without item E. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Without.
Yes, item E has been tabled.
For further information, am I?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, looks like, are you voting for?
This is the consent
A
for
through
everything
E.
but that
A
right.
through L.
This for everything else.
It's for everything but E.
Okay, it passes, it's unanimous. Dr. Brown.
All right, on the agenda for approval, I also recommend the approval of the personnel report, certified personnel.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I motion that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent for certified personnel.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent for the personnel report, certified personnel. Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous.
And Dr. Coleman, real quick, we do have, can we?
People here?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. on the
Okay.
next one. Thank you.
Dr. Brown.
Did y'all vote on that one? We good? Okay.
It's
Um,
unanimous.
Madam President, I'd like to recommend the approval of personnel report, classified personnel, pulling item S44.
Madam
This is-
President,
Hold on. Repeat what you just said. Move it
S44.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation removing S44.
I second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for classified personnel, removing item S44. Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, if I have a point of privilege, I'd like to recognize 3 of our new hires in terms of our administrative ranks. Dr. Michael Powell, a new Chief Technology Officer. Dr. Ibrahim Lee. Who will be our principal at Percy Julian High School, and Mr. Jason Norad, our principal at Brew Tech High School.
Congratulations, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Madam President.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business for this evening. Our next meeting, July 11th at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, for getting us out of here.